All right, so we now have pretty much gotten our buildings down, and I'm pretty happy with them. So I think we have a lot of different details that we can choose from to sort of make all of our buildings different and unique and add character to all of them and to make them less just like a row of boxes. So now we're going to look at how to add some other elements in there, like I had asked you to do for this project. So I think first I'm going to focus on trees because I want to address this problem. I have this big empty space here and I don't want it. I also have a bit of an empty space back here. So, one thing that we did talk about before was how to add in a row of trees. So, I'm going to do that over on this side of this little cross street that I've made and add a row of trees. So, my first step when I'm adding a row of something is going to be to draw a line showing where the bottom of that object will be. So this line right here is going to be the bottom of those trees. And then a line showing where the top of them will be. And oops, I keep accidentally moving my ruler. Okay, there, that's where the top of them is going to be. So all these trees that I put in here are going to be between this line and this line. Like those are the kind of the limits of where those trees can be. And this is going to help make sure I don't have like, a tree here that's like taller than this skyscraper. Um, or, like the size of a 6-story building or something crazy. So when I was defining those limits, I kind of looked at where this building was, figured, okay, this is a reasonable height for a tree is in relation to this building. So one other thing I want to keep in mind when I'm doing this, we don't want to do this. That is not a tree. That is broccoli. That's not how we want to draw our trees. So a good rule of thumb when you're drawing a tree, let me see, do I have scratch paper I could just do a big one on? So I'm not, yeah. Okay, so if you're drawing a tree, you can kind of figure out your basic structure. We're just going to start with like a skeleton of the tree. Like maybe the trunk comes up and then it splits. You have a branch that comes out here, then there, and then this comes here. Maybe you have a bough that breaks off and goes there. So that's kind of our linear structure for our tree. And then our leaves are kind of going to come around each of those, right? You just think of, where those areas may be able to reach. And this is going to be a bigger deal if you are drawing a tree up close, where you're going to be able to see lots of detail. Okay, so we've got these sort of areas for our tree, right? So we can build our tree around this sort of skeleton that we've made. So a tree is thickest at the trunk, and then it's going to start to taper just slightly. See, it's getting a little bit skinnier here than it is down here. So now I'm going to kind of branch out where I want to make these branches and stuff come out. So see, I'm kind of going along with where I had made that sort of skeletal structure. And I'm just kind of letting these kind of disappear off into here because they're going to be covered by leaves, right? I don't need to draw it all the way down to the very tip of each little branch, unless it's like winter and all my leaves have died and that kind of thing. But for simplicity's sake, that's not what's going on here. Okay, so we've got this sort of structure here. And you can see as, oops, I don't want anything to be like super rounded. Okay, so I can go ahead and start erasing away this sort of little skeleton I made for myself. We don't need it anymore. So now if we look at these areas of leaves, so you don't have to sit there and draw every single leaf. You just have to kind of capture the texture of those leaves. And so I'm doing this in kind of sections. I'm not making the whole thing one piece like you would with a piece of broccoli. And then with each of these sections, I started off with it sort of rounded, and then I'm kind of adding other areas coming out. This is going to sort of break up the look that it's, like a Q-tip. So I'm starting off with it kind of rounded, but then I'm kind of, so we're kind of make it a little bit more freeform and organic from there. And so I'm using just sort of a little scribbly sort of motion for adding texture here. We're not going to worry too terribly much about the specifics here. If you are really awesome at drawing trees and you can do better than this, please go for it. I'm trying not to get like super technical about any of this. Jesus. And then I can come along back here and fill this in too. In this area, I'm going to fill in with more texture so that I have a darker value, because this bit of the tree is farther back and it's sort of in shadow. I'll do the same thing here. So you have to remember that this whole thing is not just one piece, right? It's lots of little pieces that are put together, and some of them are going to be closer to us than others. So we'll have shadows in here and we'll have lighter areas. And so I'm just kind of coming along and doing sort of a scribbly little bit where I want those shadows to be. I can kind of add where I feel like I need to add. Okay, and in the interest of not making this video super long, I'm going to stop here, but I think you get the basic idea. So this is what we want to do for a tree. We do not want to do that. So basically we want it to, because this is symmetrical, right? It's the same if we split it in the middle. It's pretty much the same on both sides. That's not what happens in the natural world, except kind of to broccoli. So we want to go for something more like this, where we've got some value going on. We can even add some texture to our tree bark if we are so inclined. And the more detail or I'm sorry, you're going to have more detail the closer to you that this tree is, right? So if the tree is very, very close, you're going to be adding in a lot of detail, like, to the bark, or maybe little, knobby bits, or, things like that, showing the roots kind of coming down. Like, these are all things you'll have if the tree is very close to the viewer. If it's very far back, this is going to end up looking like something like this. And that's okay, because the farther away things are, the less detail we can see. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to the main picture because we want to get a move on. So again, this is far away, so I'm not going into a huge amount of detail. Just kind of like there's a tree. I'm going to have a little bit of leaves from the next tree kind of peeking up over the top of this building. So I know they'll come up to that line, right? Erase this little blue line here. And since these trees are planted pretty much in a row, they're going to be sort of evenly spaced out. And they won't all be the exact same height, but they'll be fairly close. So I have to make this one a little bit taller than that one, and it's okay. So there we go. We've got sort of a row of trees over there, sort of in the background. And by the way, I've got my 3 trees already, but I still wanted to do some stuff over here. So I think I'm just going to have one big tree here, and I'm going to follow this formula for it. So I'm not going to drag this video out and make you sit through another one of these. I just want to kind of walk through how we can draw trees in a slightly more realistic way than this, and also how we can draw a line of them in perspective, because that is something we had talked about with our original piece and with that original example that we did. So I just wanted to hit on that again. So I'm going to go ahead and close this out, and in our next video, I think we'll look at how to do signs, because that was one of the things I specifically asked you for, was to include signs. So that'll be the next video.